What is up, podheads? Tony here, Podio Sled Podcast, back at it again. More nerdery, more conversations, more time spent in the music therapy chamber. I'm here with Anthony, as always. How you doing, man?
Better than ever, maybe. I don't know. I never know how to answer that because, like, when we do this, I am like, we're on top of the world, man. We've done, how many episodes have we recorded in the last 10 days? 4 or 5?
Oh, man. Yeah, we've been really busy. Yep.
4 or 5. It could be, interviews, and we've had a couple with, with friends and guests and whatnot. And whichever one we do, I thoroughly enjoy. Both require research, digging back in the memory banks, thinking of old shows, thinking of experiences with records, digging into bands' new records. Like, I'm into all of this.
Yeah, man. And I am too. Obviously, we're still here doing it. So pushing 200 episodes and almost, with 3.5, almost 4 years, be 4 years in the spring. It's a blast to be able to have conversations like tonight's, because we've been living the Taking Back Sunday music world for 20 plus years. And we say this a lot when we have somebody like this, but I think this is one that has struck both of us over that time frame, where sometimes one of us is a little more dialed on it than the other is. This time, man, Shaun, Taking Back Sunday, new record, the old stuff, the conversations about Stray Light Run that might be hiding back there, all that stuff, man, really awesome.
Yeah, that's a great point, where this is a band that we've had on our radar for the podcast since we started it, but we've been listening to it for 20 plus years. And I'm really glad that it happened. Like, now could be the best time to ever have any of the members on, because I think there's just so much positivity coming out of the camp. You have all that back catalog and the new record 152. We're going to talk a ton about that record with Shaun. We've heard it, we love it. Like, it's a headphones record, it's a listen to a car in the record, it's go see live record, it's everything you'd want from a TBS record and plenty more.
Yep.
It surprised me in a really good way.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect because, it's been 7 years since they put anything out, and that's a long time for any band. Obviously, the pandemic plays into that a little bit, but to get this output from them, they feel energized, they feel renewed, they feel, excited about what they're doing, and for good reason, because the record is awesome, and we can't wait for you guys to be able to hear it too. But it's badass, and you should definitely get your hands on listening to it, whether it be digitally or go buy a copy from Fantasy Records.
And it drops October 27th. I believe it's 10 tracks. There's no skips.
No skips.
Because if you're listening to this, chances are it's probably before the album drops. You're in for it. There's no skips. The songs that are out now set the table perfectly. And yeah, let's roll into this. We talked some history with Shaun. We talked the new record. We talk what's next. Let's roll, baby. Shaun Cooper, Taking Back Sunday. Let's go. All right, we're here. Shaun Cooper, Taking Back Sunday. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing great. Yeah.
Awesome.
We've been really looking forward to this. Tony and I were talking. If you told like 16, 17-year-old us that we'd be doing this, almost 40 now, talking with you, we'd be like, how'd that happen? Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, man, I feel the same about, talking to anyone about my band. If I was 16 or 17, this is a dream come true. So thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously were into it big as juniors and seniors in high school with Tell All Your Friends, but to have Taking Back Sunday still be doing it, us starting a podcast awesome. 3.5 years ago, and now you're here talking with us. It's definitely a pinch me moment for us.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, match made in nerdery heaven, as we say.
Fantastic.
And you're a bassist and from Long Island. Like that, you're checking every box. We've been on.
Are you guys Long Island guys?
No, no, but we've had.
Anthony's adopted it as his own, but we're from Maine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I don't feel like there's a lot of love for Long Island outside of Long Island, so it's always surprising to hear.
We've done a ton of Long Island coverage. We've had a couple of guys from Incendiary. We've had the Koyo guys. We've had now you.
Nice.
We had the Sleeping recently earlier this year. We've been kind of all over the Long Island. And Anthony's, I think, Crime and Stereo is your favorite band. So
yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So must have been fun growing up there for music and I'm sure everything else.
Man, it was such a cool place because like there was a whole lot to it, and I've thought about why we had such a thriving scene. I think everyone kind of had blue collar work ethic parents and stuff, so you had parents that worked their asses off and were able to provide, and but they also had time to, like, with me personally, taking me to music lessons, taking me to sports and stuff. So we got a lot of attention and a lot of support, and we all had basements to play in. Mark, our drummer, and I have been playing in either his basement or my basement since we were like 6 or 7 years old. You know, the music we were playing was absolute garbage. Like I had a little keyboard I got for Christmas, and I would just bang on the thing. He could actually play drums when he was like 6 or 7. He was shockingly good. Just he was born that way. And so we had all that access to do that, and like good music stores and stuff. So it was really, really tremendous place to grow up and do that. And then like all of our friends kind of played in bands. We had different bands and different venues that allowed us to come and play shows on Sunday afternoons and stuff, like different bars and restaurants and things, VFW halls. We're all open to having 88 kids come and trash their place for a few hours when there's no other business going on. So very, very fortunate to grow up where I did.
And that sounds awesome. And we had it on a small scale here in Southern Maine because it's just there's not as many people.
Yeah.
But we'd always see the videos, or we'd hear the music and be like, oh man, if they would just come 5 hours north and do this in the backyard here, we'd be in fucking heaven.
Hell yeah.
Well, I posted that on some message board a few years ago, and they're like, well, we did come up and blah, blah, blah. And it was all like 21 plus places. And
yeah,
when I was like 15, it's like, that doesn't really help, No,
not at all. Yeah. The 21 and up places when we first started playing were always such a bummer too. It'd be like half the crowd of what we'd usually play. We're like, man, we really can't do this anymore. So we did it, sparingly, but sometimes like you get to a different place and that was all that was available. But yeah, now it's like, that's all there is. Like everyone's 21 and up now, except now people are bringing their kids.
Which is cool.
That's right.
That's got to be pretty cool for you to see, people our age bringing their kids to your show when you started this thing 20 something years ago. And now you're still doing it at a high level. I mean, the new record is phenomenal. We've listened to it a couple times.
Thank you.
But man, that's got to be pretty cool, right?
It's an unbelievable thing. I mean, like we couldn't have dreamt this when the band had started, from such humble beginnings. And we thought we'd put out the first record, and I thought we'd just go back to work and school after the summer was done, summer of 2002. So anything beyond that's wild. But we all kind of became parents around similar times and stuff. And then seeing people bring their kids out, and people, like, there are people that got married that met at our shows. It's like, we did what? That's amazing. Like just how this. Yeah. It's really happened. And I'm shocked to hear that stuff. And it's always really, really cool to see and seeing families bond over our band, like I did with my family as a kid growing up. And that's truly amazing. And we feel so lucky that we get to do it continually. And like I said, when we were kids, it was just, make some songs and have fun. It was a hobby. And somehow it turned into a job, and now it's like a lifelong passion that we keep going with.
Does the creative process change with that? It's like you and Mark, basement, 6-7 years old, then the band pops off early 2000s, and then to now, it's like that's like multiple lifetimes, Shaun. Like, does the process change for you, like creatively?
No, the process for us has always been very similar. It's 4 dudes in a room throwing out ideas. And whatever presents itself as the thing to work on that day, well, someone will have a guitar riff or something, and we'll go from there. Mark's always plunking around on his phone. Like, he went from just banging on his drums in his basement to writing and recording opuses on GarageBand on his phone. It's ridiculous. Like, he knows how to manipulate that thing in ways that I don't understand at all. Like, I'm not that good with the technology, and he's sampling things. Like, we were in Florida, and there was a broken down old piano. It was probably like a 200-year-old piano, and it sounded like garbage. But he took a note and he sampled it, and it sounds like something out of a horror movie. And he was able to put it in GarageBand and be able to change the notes all around, but it's the same tone that came out of that 200-year-old piano. And he's like, I'm going to write something really great right now. And he did, like in the car ride over to the show. So he's always doing stuff like that. So that process has changed, having the technology and the ability to do that. But so he'll bring that idea to us, and Adam will be like, I got a vocal melody. Get me in the booth right now. We'll go from there, and then we'll kind of create a song around that. So someone will spark an idea, and then we will go from there and embrace it and put our own touches on it and make it sound like a Taking Back Sunday song.
And you can tell in listening to, early stuff to middle stuff to today that it all feels kind of lived in, even if the sentiment and maybe, you know, attitude and maturity levels have changed a little bit, but it all feels like you guys know each other and know each other's process, and it lived in, I think, is the best way to explain it, especially this new record. I mean, it's a vibe, but in a good way.
Yeah, and I think that like the older we've gotten, like we learned a lot with the writing of Tidal Wave to kind of go with our gut more. Don't overthink things, and then we've kind of refined that process over the years. And it's really trust your gut and trust where someone is taking the song. Like, oh, it seems like Mark's really passionate about what he's doing on the drums now. Like we thought it was going to be more an acoustic song. He sped it up. Cool, let's go with it. Let's see where that takes it. And that's what happened with the Tidal Wave song. So we've kind of embraced that, and like as you grow together and you learn to trust more, you follow that path, and sometimes it leads to really really cool results, like more more interesting than I could have ever imagined on my own.
What about you as far as bass playing? Because like there, you've been, I would assume, been playing for 25 years. Like, has your approach? I mean, I think about technology with like Mark. He can. There's drum pads and there's samples, all that stuff. But bass, I don't know. I'm coming from like a pseudo bassist. I feel like not much has changed for
No, but I've learned a lot, like through working with different producers. Like Eric Valentine was very instrumental in me imagining different rhythmic possibilities, different note choices and things like that. Working with Tushar Apti on this record, like he's just got such a lyrical sense of melody and stuff that I could apply to my bass playing. So it's more learning things like that, and it's like being a better editor of myself before I bring an idea to the guys and things like that. So I've definitely used a couple of effects pedals, and I don't even know what they were because I'm not like into that world so much. But I definitely played around with a couple of interesting tones on this record. I felt the freedom to kind of go there and try things out. And like Adam is all about that. He'll tell me about this effects pedal. You got to buy this. You got to try this. See what this can do. And I'm like, cool, man. If you think it's cool, like I know you're giving me the right information, so I will follow that. And then I just fiddle with the buttons and get something interesting going. I don't know how I did it. I might not be able to ever recreate that sound again, but it was cool for the record, and we'll approximate it live. So yeah, not much has changed in the technology department there. But one cool thing was Fender put out this thing called the Fender Mustang Micro, I think it's called, and it just plugs right into your bass. You plug headphones into that, and then it can Bluetooth hook up to your phone. So I was playing the tracks back that we were working on. I'd go in a quiet room. I need quiet. I only need to be able to hear myself. Like if I hear talking or any chatter in the background, it distracts me and drives me nuts. So I need to just have my own time. So I was able to do that, put headphones on, and really work on my bass lines while Mark was doing drums in the other room, or Adam was working on a vocal part. And so that really helped me with my process of getting the bass lines right and trying different ideas while not halting any progress too. So I felt like I was able to work very efficiently with that thing.
Come a long way from probably having to find a bathroom or something where you could do that and to not hear everybody. We could just use the headphones instead.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like there'd be times like where I'd be able to hear, like I wouldn't have an amp to plug in, so I'd be playing around and have my head to my bass trying to hear what I was doing while it was coming out of a stereo and stuff, like not having it all connected. So it was a very frustrating process. Or like it would just take a lot longer. I'd have to work on ideas while recording. And that could just take forever because maybe that idea sucks, or maybe I just didn't play it well enough because I'm still figuring it out. So yeah, I got to be way more efficient, like I was saying earlier.
And also over this time, you can soak in more influences. Like I'm sure for the tell all your friends, you're probably early 20s maybe. Your musical ears are probably just local stuff or what you grew up on and your parents, but you've had 20 years to just soak in the world of music.
And more than that, what's really cool, there's a lot to be said about the pay structure and everything with streaming services, which, like I agree with a lot of those complaints. On the other side, I have been able to explore music like no other time in the world. Like it's just so easy to click and go around and go down rabbit holes and put on different playlists and check out new things. Like I never listened to trip hop, but I've started to like check out that world because it's easily accessible right on my phone to my ears. And that's a really, really great thing. So I think that was able to expand my horizons over these last years. And certainly from the time we were working on the Tidal Wave record till now, like, so many more influences came in and I'm able to put them through my filter and channel it into Taking Back Sunday for sure. So it's been amazing to have that access and that time to it all. And as you grow, you gravitate towards more things. My wife is a huge influence with the music she likes. Like, she's a huge Taylor Swift fan. If I was not married to her, I probably wouldn't be checking her out. I'm a punk rock guy, but I love
You
Taylor
would
Swift.
have,
I think
Shaun.
she's
You
great.
would have. You still
Yeah, I
would
mean,
have.
how could you miss her, right? And I think she's tremendous. Like, I'll put on those records by myself, especially get lonely on tour and stuff, get a little comfort. But like, my son loves Harry Styles. We went to see him last year. It was amazing in Madison Square Garden. Like, that realm of pop music, you know, I might not have exposed to if my son hadn't found it on his streaming services and stuff. So yeah, it's really cool to have all that access and the time, and to find other things I like and I'm passionate about and enjoy.
That's an interesting thought, because we've talked about it for, close to 200 episodes, where the world was different when we were 17, 18. We had maybe $10 a week to buy a record, and that we'd have just hoped it was good because we knew a song. And now you can just, everything's right there. You can listen to everything. But I never looked at it through the eyes of a musician, where now you can pull from different places that you may never have been exposed to. And you're similar in age to us. So that's wild, man. That's going to be an awesome thing.
Yeah, it's very enjoyable. So when I hear people complain about the bad parts of it, like, I'm trying to embrace the good that it has brought me.
You guys want to get into some new record talk?
Let's do it, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the new record, it drops October 27th, Fantasy Records. It's called 152. And Shaun, we're like the geekiest, nerdiest music fans you can think of. And somehow 152 slipped by us as music fans. Like, how we didn't see the lineage with that, I don't know. We were talking about it, like, we saw it but never connected the dots. So we understand that there's some significance to that. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I'm similar to you guys. Like, I go through and I just listen to what I like, and I don't know the lore behind, most of the things I listen to. So I understand where you're coming from. So the 152 thing was something that Adam started putting on our records with Tell Your Friends. And what 152 represents is an exit in North Carolina, where he and his friends would meet up from all over the state, and then they would go to hardcore shows together. And it was just a cool local meeting spot. So he left his home in North Carolina to come up to Long Island, join the band, and he was missing those people who were so important to him in his formative years of working on music and starting bands down there. So he really wanted to do that kind of as a tribute to them. And I really didn't understand it when he first started doing it, but I'm like, okay, that's cool, whatever. And then he put it on he put it on every subsequent record. And as the years have gone on, I'm like, the 152 represents all of us. It represents Taking Back Sunday, and I thought it was really cool because it's become a part of me, and I didn't expect that initially 20-something years ago. So we were thinking about different things to title the record. We've already had a self-titled record, and what best represents us now? And it was the 152, and the three of us actually had to convince Adam. He was the most hesitant to name the record that. So it was like, dude, no, man, the universe is pointing in all directions. Name this one 152. It's us. It's us right now. Let's go, man. And it's like, all right. and I'm so happy we did it. It makes me feel good when I see it.
It's awesome. And I picture us last night getting ready for this interview, looking through album covers, trying to find all the 152s. So we're just like, oh wow, there it is. Oh, it's the dice.
Yeah, little Easter eggs.
It's the dice on the rearview mirror in this one. Oh my god. That's badass. Yeah. I love that. That kind of stuff is cool. Especially it adds a level of personality and towards the music for people, for fans, and there's super fans out there that love all that stuff. So pretty wild to have that. Cool, man. That's badass. So Fantasy Records. Why Fantasy Records? Why indie again? We love it. That's great. But how did the Fantasy Records thing come about?
We've had the ins and outs with majors and stuff, and then the last two records were out on Hopeless and things, and then we needed to regroup and rethink what we wanted to do. So we wanted to work on this record without any influence from any label. We had opportunities to sign with different places before we got to work on the record, especially through the pandemic and stuff. Like, hey, we think this thing's going to end sometime soon. You guys are going to be back, and I know you want to put out a record. Like, hey, you want to work with us? And we're like, let's make the record first. Let's get some songs to these people. Let's start putting some things out there, because I think this marks a new beginning for the band. So I think we need a fresh start. We need a fresh home, and we need people who feel as passionately about this band as we do. And the possibilities we think are endless for us. Is there a label out there that feels similarly? And Fantasy came to the table. We had a really good back and forth with them, and it was very clear that they were very passionate about us. And the Craft Music Group has been really, really great. They own most of our back catalog too, with through the stuff with Victory Records and the Warner Brothers records. So we had been in those offices when we put out our 20-year like greatest hits release. And I back in that was like 2019, and we were in those offices and promoting that release. And I said, man, it'd be really cool if we could be back here. And I don't know if that's possible. But when they came to the table and they're part of the Concord Music Group, I said, man, I think this is the home for us. And then having all these meetings with them, it was just really cool and really exciting to see how excited they were. So I wanted to jump on it, and it was clear we made a really good choice.
That's so fascinating to me, because there's like, growing up, there were certain labels that whatever band they signed, I was going to check it out. But at the same time, that label indirectly kind of pigeonholed them into, hey, we want this sound, or the band saying, hey, we need to mold to this sound. So to be completely stripped from that, and actually, it sounds like the music was written before Fantasy came in.
Yeah, absolutely. We were in the process of working on it, but we had songs that were in a, more finished process and things like that. So we sent out a few songs, loose demo versions and stuff. Like, okay, this is definitely the direction we're taking. What do you think? So that was very important. And I think, back in the day too, there were a lot of bands I knew that saw different successes at different bands, and they go, we want to sound just like them, because then we'll be successful too. And you could kind of see through it. There was no like heart in it. It was all like, hey, I want to be in a popular band. I want to get chicks. I want to make some money, whatever, and that was never Taking Back Sunday. Like, we had so many friends when we were coming up playing the songs that you hear on Tell Your Friends. We had friends tell us, man, you guys should really get a DJ. You guys really need a rapper. Like, if you want to be big, these are the things you got to do. Like, that was the feedback we were getting a lot. Or, you don't sound like this band. You don't sound like that band. And we said, but that's not true to who we are. We're going to make it, if we're going to make it, it's going to be on something we believe in. And man, we really believe in 152.
So that's how Flavor Flav ended up in that video. That makes sense to me.
He did, man. He's the man.
So how many DJs awesome. Did you try out? Is the
question. Zero. Yeah. Yeah. We're like, that's not going to work, man. Like, that's what's popular right now. Like, 1998, 99 and stuff. Mm-hmm. When, the band started to do stuff, we're like, that's not going to go, man.
And so you said 152. So I said 152. So that just shows you, it completely missed me.
It's however you want to say it. I think I don't know if we all say it alike in the band too, but I just go with 152. So
152.
152nd.
Yeah, written out with words and letters, right?
Yep.
So 7 years between releases. That's a long time for you guys. Did you like the extra time, or were you more like, we might overthink it. Let's start working. Let's get on this. Or was there just like a break in there that there was nothing being done?
Yeah, there was a certain plan in place where it was going to take a little bit of time. So 2019, we knew the Tidal Wave record was coming out. So going back, we knew the Tidal Wave record was coming out back, and we had a plan to promote that record because we felt so passionately about that. We did an album play tour, playing the record front to back in smaller venues and stuff, because we really wanted to showcase that record. Then we were going to go all over the world and promote that, and we did. And then we knew that was going to lead into 2019, which was the 20-year anniversary of the band. And we knew that was going to buy us a little time to kind of write and refine the next one. So the year 2020 was the goal to get to make this album. 2020, we get to the studio and we start working on the album. We fly home from that March of 2020. The world shuts down right as we got home from that first initial writing trip. So I didn't see the guys for a month, 1 year and like 3 months before we were back in the same room again.
Wow.
So separately, we were all tinkering away while we were sequestered in our homes and things like that. So there was a lot of ideas when we finally got back in the same room. Working on a new record, we also got back to touring hardcore, and we wanted to get back out there and play for people and remind everybody who we were, and to kind of ramp up steam. So if people forgot about us, they go, okay, there's this band that I knew and loved, and they're back, they're touring, they're doing the thing, and they got a new record coming out. Cool. So we had to kind of write and record in between touring. And we've never really done that before. We usually would set aside a few months in the studio to specifically work on the record. Wasn't a luxury we had this time, but it was also kind of cool because we got to record in a whole bunch of different places throughout the country. And I think we got to spend time. We got to say, okay, this song's like 90% there, but we're going to get to work on it again in another month. So let's all listen to it. Let's think about ideas and let's refine this and get it into its sharpest form when we get back together in the studio. So that was pretty cool. But that's the whole timeline of events.
Yeah, I know for me, I'm an overthinker. Like I would just tinker with it till no end, and then it probably would be like a Tool situation where it never comes out, or 16 years later it comes out.
Yeah. There was a good amount of tinkering, but we also kind of had like deadlines we wanted to hit. We wanted the record to come out this year, so it was very important we got done with things in a certain amount of time, and fantasy was very, very key in accommodating all of that because there's so much behind the scenes stuff they have to do with getting the songs on all of the services. So they said, okay, can we hit this date? If we can hit this date and get the record turned in by this, mixed and mastered, all that stuff, then we can have a release date of this. And I was like, let's go, guys. Like, we got to make sure this is done. So there was some tinkering behind, but man, Tushar Apti, our producer, really kept us on track, and we got it all done.
Nice. So right now there are 3 singles out, right? The One, Sold, and Amphetamine Smiles. The video for Sold or So Old is all time, and I mean, you guys went viral with that, just the backyard show, and I watched it again this morning, and it's so cool. And we had the Koyo Boys on there, and we could see them. It's like this is badass. Like that's must have been a blast to do.
It was, yeah. That was the brainchild of our drummer Mark. He kind of like wanted to get back to our roots with that, and he was like, "What if we did this? This would be insane." So we coordinated with our director DJ Bronner and our friend Mike Dubin, and Mike had he's really good friends with the Koyo guys, and he's like, listen, there's a house where there are shows right on Long Island, like we can do this, and we can set it up. So we got all those plans together, and they host shows there regularly, like throughout the summer and stuff, just local shows. I think Koyo may have played there before, and like a whole bunch of different Long Island bands. So like, that's our roots. Like those are our people. And that's where we came up. And that's how we cut our teeth and learned how to play together live as a unit. And that's where we first started seeing people respond to our songs. So it was really, really fun to get back to that place and embrace that and really enjoy it.
So the end of that video, you guys are all sitting around a table, like kind of taking stock. I could watch that for an hour. Like, if you guys want to do that and make it a video series, like I would love to. We would love to host it. We'll get out of the way. We'll let you guys do it all. But I would love. Oh man, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that.
Nice. I love hearing that because we love doing it. It's something we do. Basically every night after a show. Like man, like over this last tour we were on with the main Sad Summerfest. We had a big stage setup and things and all this production that we'd never had before. So we had a video camera recording us, so we wanted to see like, okay, where are the lights looking, where do we got to head in this part, like thinking about blocking on stage and stuff. So we'd like sit around at the end of a show on the bus watching game tape essentially. So yeah, man, I'd be happy if people wanted to see more of that. I'd do that in a heartbeat.
What's interesting about this rollout, I'm just thinking of this now, is the 3 songs that you put out are the first 3 songs on the record, where nowadays like half the record gets put out for the most part before it comes out, but it's not the first 5 songs of the album, any given album. It's all over the place. So this gives like a true, we're sequence nerds. We are like, we'll like critique like, all right, that should have been the closer. That was an obvious opener. How did they miss that? So like we geek out about this stuff, but I'm just observing that now. That's interesting.
Yeah. And honestly, it's just the way it worked out. It's like kind of how the label saw things and how we kind of wanted things to go. And so we were kind of taking cues from them, but we had very similar plans in mind before we even spoke with them. So when they were passionate about the same songs we were and how we wanted to reintroduce the band after all this time, so there's something here. There's really something to this. And it's very exciting to feel that energy, and that we're all kind of feeling it together. So we hope that translates to everybody who's paying attention.
Yeah, you nailed the sequence. I'll say that.
Awesome. But yeah, I can't wait till people can hear it in full front to back. Like, like that was a big thing, like a big discussion. And I say it a lot, but when the 4 of us have very different personalities, very different tastes and everything, but when the 4 of us agree on something immediately, it's pretty rare. So we always embrace it and go with that idea full steam. So we all knew Amphetamine Smiles was going to start the record. We had no question about it, no matter what. We've usually had a much faster, upbeat song to start out our albums. Not this time. We said, this is what we want. It's these lyrics, these melodies, this feel that we want ramp up into what this record is. So that was definitely something we talked about a lot, and it was very seamless.
I read that Mark said that when you guys write songs, you ask yourself, what emotion will people feel? We want people to feel emotion. So whenever I listen to music for like a new release, I close my eyes and I listen to it in headphones, just a personal nerd thing. So when I did that for this album, I saw like you guys playing in the Vegas Sphere. Like it just had that big room, epic shit. And I was like, they need to play the Sphere. Like, I don't know what the capacity is there, but you guys have to play the Sphere and play this album with killer visuals. It would be an experience.
And man, I think the capacity is like 8 million, so it might take a few years. But yeah, man, I'm all in. I think that's a fantastic idea, and I know what you mean. And we're paying a lot of attention to visuals and production for the future. So it's something like is not lost on us. I'm amazed to hear that you're feeling the same way. So that's really, really awesome, because I want to do things like that. We want to have a more visual representation of these songs too. That's important why we put out so many singles and so many videos before the album is even dropped yet. And it's a luxury we haven't had, which really Fantasy has brought to the table, which is nice. But it's also like our attention to detail this time around. Like we're not letting anything fall by the wayside.
So you guys want to make people feel something when listening to it, and it happens. How do you feel when you listen back to it?
Oh, I get chills. Like there's so many parts that surprise me, whether it's Mark's playing or Adam singing or John singing, and the lyrics that I know they wrote. And there's so much that connects to me and really moves me about the album. And I can't believe it's us. Like I get goosebumps still after all this time. And how many times have I listened to it? How many times have I focused on one little like tenth of a second bass part I've been playing, and to still get that every time I listen, because we're gonna do these album play shows. So I gotta work on playing this album front to back and do it really, really well. So I'm working on that. And still I'm very moved by the record, and I'm so excited to have everybody hear it. And so yeah, I'm very surprised at myself that I'm still having those kind of feelings and still so moved by it after this time, and especially this close. Like a lot of times I'll get sick of our songs after such a process, and I go, I need a break, and then I'll take a break and I'll hear it sometime later, and I go, yeah, man, we crushed it on that one or whatever. But not with this one, and not yet anyway. So ask me again in 6 months where I'm at. I might be tired of these ones too, but I think we did something special here.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's a record. Oftentimes you have albums they call growers and showers, right? But this one I think is a little bit of both. Like the first time I listened to it, I'm like, all right, I like this. I'm ready to dig into it again. And then the second time I'm like, all right, now I'm starting to kind of feel where these are supposed to take me. And this record definitely does that.
And I think it sounds different from many of our records, and that's due to Tushar Appy's production on it. But it has the Taking Back Sunday songwriting. So I think it's a little bit of a shock to your system as someone who might have experienced Taking Back Sunday before. You go, okay, this sounds different, but it's still, the songs are still there. The heart of it is there, but it's got this new shine. It's got this new polish. It's like an old car that we really cleaned up. And I think sometimes that can be a little off-putting at first, but when you pay more attention, you're like, wow, I like what they did here. So I'm hoping that translates. That's how I feel about it. And I hope that translates to more than just you. But man, it's awesome to hear you say that.
Us too. We think it will. We think it will.
Well, it's funny. As a fan of whatever it's been, 21, 22 years, I don't think you guys could have made this album until now.
No.
I feel like, I don't know your, like, the output I know from you guys is Taking Back Sunday and some of the bands you've been in. It just feels like whether there's maturity, willing to kind of put some polish on it, willing to go label agnostic almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
New label. I feel like now is like not only the time for it, but the best time.
Yeah, and like the plan, like I was saying earlier, after the big touring run in 2019, was to take time with this record and to write and refine and to like, but more than that, take a little break, because we're always on the road and we have families and stuff that we love spending time with. And it was very important for us to rest and recuperate and kind of think about where this album was going to go. We didn't think we'd get a year and 3 months or whatever it was. So that was a little bit on the long side. But I think it was all important that we were very lucky that we kind of went into that with the mindset, okay, breather time, let's refocus, let's recalibrate and see what we can do. So I think you're absolutely right in saying we couldn't have made it at any time before. We needed the break, we needed the rest, we needed to kind of find ourselves again and to see. And the pandemic was so eye-opening for me to say, man, I can't wait to play these songs with my friends again. I can't wait to be back in the studio and work on music and create with these guys, because I feel like I couldn't be successful at anything else than this band with these guys. And there's such a chemistry there that I feel like is a very special thing that not a lot of people get to experience. And I've been living it for 20 something years. So it's not lost on me. Sometimes you get lost in the muck. It's like a marriage or anything else where the relationships can get tricky and there's a lot of ups and downs. But overall, like, these guys are my brothers and I love them very much. And I miss them like crazy when we couldn't be in the same room doing what we love to do. So I think it's all a product of that.
So Adam's lyrics, I assume he does he write all the lyrics?
No, John wrote a lot too. Like John, like Amphetamine Smiles was, I think, like 90% John's lyrics. But Adam has tons of stuff. Like Sold, I think, was mostly Adam. So yeah, so it kind of goes back and forth.
It's always been a huge draw for you guys with me, but one of the lines that really stands out, it's on Keep Going. It's like halfway through, and Adam repeats it a few times, is the problem isn't that I've changed. The problem is that you've stayed the same. Mm-hmm. And I could interpret that in so many different ways. Personally, I'm trying to like go from Adam's perspective. He's talking about the music industry. He's talking about this or that. It's just a universal, brilliant, simple line that it's one of like the top several things that stand out from this album. And it's just amazing how something kind of so small can do that.
Yeah. And those guys are really, really good at that, like making those points and making you think. And yeah, I agree. That's a killer line.
That's so good. Yeah. And there's more of that stuff throughout the record. And we're really stoked to have been able to hear it a few times ourselves. And we're excited for everybody else to get to hear it too. You guys are playing some shows. LA, right? In a couple of November, right? LA, Nashville, New York in early November. Correct. And then you're going to Australia too in December. Right. And back to New Jersey, New York in December.
Yeah, coming right up. Yeah, so yeah, we thought we really wanted to showcase this album in really cool venues and stuff. Bowery Ballroom, Lodge Room, Bowery Ballroom in New York, Lodge Room in Los Angeles, and Eastside Bowl, I think, or something in Nashville. So I'm really excited to play all those places, like smaller rooms and stuff. And we'll be playing the 152 album front to back, and can't wait to do that. Australia, the Good Things Festival. We haven't been there since the beginning of 2019. That kicked off the 20-year anniversary tour. And so it's going to be awesome to get back there. I have some family down there. I'm really looking forward to seeing them and spending some time and taking them backstage, showing my niece and nephew backstage at a festival and stuff. So that'll be really, really cool. And it's going to be a great time. We always end the year in the New York, New Jersey area playing for our friends and family here, Mulcahy's and Starland Ballroom, and then take a little break in January and reset before we pick up what's going to be a very busy 2024. Still compiling the plans for that, still ironing out the details, but we're going to support this record properly and promote it, like only we can. And there's a lot more coming. So it's going to be good times.
Hell yeah. Are you looking to play the big, huge area places, the arenas that can kind of like give you some of that? I mean, whatever size that you guys are comfortable with, but they can give you some of that visual aspect that you were talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're already talking about production. Adam's been heading all that stuff up, and he headed it up for the summer tour. And we've got some cool things, I think, that are going to be happening for the 152 album play shows. So I think that's only going to continue. And we're taking a lot of time and putting a lot of attention to all of those details to make sure you get to experience Taking Back Sunday a little bit differently. We know this record is different, and we want to embrace that. And we've played a lot of shows over the years, so we want to offer something that looks visually a little bit different from things we've done in the past to keep it interesting and show like this is a different time for us, and we're evolving and we're growing and we're changing, and we're all excited about it.
I was going to say, that seems to be a theme right now, just in what I've read and just chatting with you, is like I don't know if it's like a renewed energy or excitement. I'm sure it's always been there, but like it seems more out front than maybe past album cycles.
Yeah. And I think, the time in between releases too was really key for that too, because it wasn't like record, tour, record, tour, record, tour. It was like record and then tour, tour, tour for a whole long time. So we were so excited to get back in the studio, and we weren't burnt out. We had a lot of rest at home for pretty horrible reasons, but we got that time. So when we were able to recommit to getting in the studio and everything, it got, the creative process was so exciting to hear these things come out, and it's what we've been looking for years, to get that fire going and to get this band moving again after just being dormant for the pandemic years and stuff. So I think just having that passion and that rekindle thing, I think we learned a lot of really good lessons about who we are and where we want to take this band.
Yeah, that time frame was obviously difficult for all of us, being stuck at home, and maybe some people not you reevaluate your relationships, and I'm sure that happened with a lot of bands too, and we lost some bands because of it, but it sounds like it kind of strengthened you guys' bond and got us to this point today, which is pretty badass.
Yeah, and that was the thing, like throughout that whole process, like we were keeping in touch, and we did a silly little podcast, and it was really my like, I had the idea for that, and my goal was just to keep us talking every week. And we just get on the internet and BS, and not a lot of people were watching and stuff, but I was just like, we need to keep in touch, because we're gonna lose it if we don't. We're gonna lose something, and who knows how long this thing is gonna go on. And we did it for like a year, and everyone was like, I can't believe we've done so many of these stupid things. Like, this sucks. This sucks that we can't be in the room working on what we want to do. We're not podcast hosts. Like, that's not our thing. Like, you guys are so good at it. That's not our deal. And just talking to each other. Sometimes it would suck. Sometimes we'd be bored, or like, it's so frustrated with the circumstances, not doing what we really wanted to be doing. So, but I think it was an important part of staying connected on some sort of level.
Well, you're so good at the musician thing, so
absolutely,
yeah. That's our forte, and that's why it was so tough being a part, because there's nothing we wanted more.
Any last things you want to promote or talk about?
Yeah, just 152 coming out October 27th. Check it out everywhere. I'm so excited, and thank you guys for having me. This was super fun.
Yeah, Shaun, thank you. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate getting some of the backstory on the new record, and just what's been going on in the Taking Back Sunday camp forever. Coming from myself, and I'm sure I'm speaking for Anthony here too, because we're coming from the same area, but growing up with Taking Back Sunday, to be able to talk to you about anything music is fucking awesome. I'm super stoked that this happened.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you guys for having me. Tony, Anthony, it was really, really fun time. You guys are so knowledgeable. It makes it very easy for me to just go off on these tangents and stuff. But yeah, you guys made it very, very simple, and thank you guys for taking the time to be so knowledgeable about the band and the new record and stuff like that, because this is nice, and I feel really good, and you guys said really nice things, so I appreciate that too.
Awesome. Well, hey, Shaun, we'll let you go, and thank you. We'll be in touch.
Yeah,
cool.
Thanks, man.
Sounds good.
Thank you for listening to Podio Slave. We are at Podio Slave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podio Slave Podcast. YouTube, Podio Slave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.
So, Shaun, you said we're knowledgeable. I'm going to test your knowledge. So, I believe I attended the first Stray Light Run show back in 2003 in September. Where was that show?
It was at the Downtown on Long Island.
Oh, I'm wrong then. I thought it was Worcester Palladium Skate Fest upstairs. And I've been telling everyone for 20 years that I saw the first Stray Light Run show, and I'm a fraud.
I think number 2 is still pretty good. And the first one was really cool because downtown, it was like 550 people capacity, something like that. And we'd sold it out in advance. And then we got to play that big fest and stuff, which was awesome. One thing I do remember, I think we played the show in Farmingdale out here. And then I was packing up the car, and I think I left my bass on my parents' lawn before, like I didn't pack it in my car or something. So I got up there and I was like, oh my God, we have this giant show to play at this big fest. What am I going to do? Did My Chemical Romance headline the Inside the Big Room?
That was Coheed Simple Plan Movie Life year, when Movie Life broke up.
Well, the thing was, I borrowed a bass from the Movie Life.
There you go.
to play that show. So I knew that they were there. And my chem, I don't know if they were on it or not, but I remember being at the Palladium and they played. They might not have headlined it.
And that's the thing. They were lower. I actually, when we looked at that lineup,
we saw them in the spring of 2003 in Portland open for the Used. So they were lower at that point.
Anthrax.
There you go.
Yeah.
So in spring, Taking Back Sunday was on tour. We brought out my chem for like 5 shows and stuff and stayed friends with those guys forever. And I remember Stray Light played the small room, and I went out and I was watching my chem, and they were blowing up. And it was only like, 6 months or so since that Taking Back Sunday takeover tour. And I was like, oh my God, like nobody knew who these guys were a couple months ago. Now, like they seem like one of the biggest bands here. This is the coolest thing ever. Like, look at them go. Good for them, man. Hell yeah. So it was just cool to see that growth. Scary because I forgot the bass, but yeah, so many memories of that show, which is a real wild thing.
That's awesome.
But it's very cool you were there.
I was a Stray Light Runs like super fan, and I had a hoodie. It was all black. It had maybe like a woman or something.
Yeah,
it was a zip up. I can't remember. But I'm looking at my phone here. I have a ticket stub, October 12th, 2003, upstairs Palladium again. You guys opened for Orange Island.
Wow. Yeah.
Like no one would have thought they would have headlined over you guys, I'm sure, but $10. This is it. I don't know if you can see that.
That's so cool. Yeah. I can see, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing you hung on to that. Very cool. But yeah, played a lot of cool shows in that spot. It was always super fun. It was, much more gritty back in those days. I think they've cleaned up the joint pretty nicely since. I haven't been there in a while, but man, yeah, it used to be a little bit of a wild time.